Hello, my dear students. I welcome you all to your Vedantu Accountancy class. Very good evening to all of you. Start joining in, start marking your attendance by liking the session. Start telling me if you're all able to see me, hear me, or not. Very good evening to all of you. How are you all today? Good evening, guys. So start marking your attendance by liking the session and start telling me if you all are able to see me, hear me, or not. Today's session is financial statement of company, one short revision of balance sheet and P&L. How are you all today? What is going on? Today's session is on financial statements of company. बेटा आज discuss करने वाले हैं. Hi बेटा, how are you? How is everything? So financial statements of company is what we are going to discuss today. Financial statements of company, that means it's the third book, and in the third book we are going to discuss about the format of balance sheet, format of P&L, and what comes in the format. What you are going to get from this chapter, you are going to get heads and subheads, right? Question is going to give you some particular subheads, and then the question is going to ask you that, yeah, this thing lies under which head, right? What is the main head of this topic? What is the major head of this topic? Okay, so after finishing the syllabus, beta, after finishing the syllabus, we are almost about to finish the syllabus. 2, 3 chapters are left. Then we are going to start with sample paper. Last year sample paper we will solve. Then last year paper we will solve. Yeah, live on the channel. Of course. That is what the plan is for further. What else, guys? What else is going on? Yeah. So, financial statements of company is what we are going to discuss today. One shot on financial statements of company. Let's quickly start this chapter. Let's quickly start this revision. Just give me a moment. Just a second. Just give me 1 second, guys. Huh? Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So chalo, Let's start with the financial statements of company, one shot revision, balance sheet, and P&L. Right. So what are financial statements? This is where your third book starts from. Beta, your third book is total of 20 marks. Yeah. From this third book, you are going to get 20 marks. Financial statement of company gives you 20 marks. Right. There will be a question from this chapter. Yes, a subhead head question and a theoretical question and some MCQs. Possibly you are going to get from this chapter. So financial statements, what is the meaning of financial statements? The final product, yeah, the whole year your accounting process is going to lead something, yes. So whole year you have been doing accounting to reach to some final product, right? to reach to some final product, right? Accounting principles, practice, and accounting standards. Section 129 of Companies Act prescribes that balance sheet and P&L are prepared in prescribed Schedule 3 of Companies Act. So yes, of course, bit of financial statements in 11th you used to make in a format, right? In a format where you made trading, where you made P&L, where then you made balance sheet. Now what about company? If you are a company, then you have to follow the standards as per given in the section 129 of the Companies Act and Schedule 3 of the Companies Act. So the format of balance sheet and P&L is given in the section 129 of the Companies Act, right? So जहां से आपको balance sheet P&L करना है, that is given in the section 129. बैलेंस शीट और पीएनएल में दिया हुआ है पूरा का पूरा फॉर्मेट इज ऑलरेडी गिवन इन द कंपनीज एक्ट सो दैट format is followed, right? That format is followed for financial statements of company. For financial statements of sole proprietor, if you all remember in 11th there was trading P&L balance sheet, you were doing something differently. But for financial statements of company, there is a proper format, there are the proper postings which are to be followed as it is, है ना? ऐसे कि ऐसे जैसे आपको बैलेंस शीट वहां पे दी जाती है, that only you have to follow. What are financial statements characteristics? So yeah, financial statements are related to past period, whatever you have done in the whole year and whatever values of previous time, that only you are going to keep again. Expressed in terms of money, of course. And of course, financial statement is going to tell you financial position and financial performance. Financial statements, beta. Financial statements, they always tell two things, right? They always tell two things: financial performance, and financial position. Financial position, right? So financial performance means P&L. Financial performance means statement of P&L. Financial of how are we going to know the performance of the business? We are going to know it from P&L. Where are we going to know the financial position? We are going to know it from balance sheet, right? So financial statement tells you about two things: financial performance and financial position. Position is understood in balance sheet, performance is understood in P&L, right? So what is the nature of financial statements? The nature of financial statements is it records facts, of course. You know, everything which is recorded in the books of financial statements, it is recorded on the basis of evidence. Yeah, you all have done this in 11th also, that there is a rule, there is an objectivity principle that whatever we are recording in the books of accounts, that is based on some or the other evidence. Yeah. So accounting conventions we follow while recording financial statements. Accounting concepts are followed. Accounting standards are followed. Selection of accounting policies, estimates, source of financial information. All these things are followed when you are making financial statements. Other feature is selection of accounting policies, right? That when you are making financial statements, you get time to select your accounting policies, but you have to use accounting policies while doing accounting. Everybody who is doing accounting has to follow concepts, standards, policies, gap, and a generally accepted accounting principles. It is to be accepted everywhere. Somewhere or the other, financial statements are bit based on estimates because we use historical values, right? And financial statements are the biggest financial informations, right? Biggest source of financial information. You all know it well by now because you all must have made projects also on financial statements, right? So whatever projects you are making it on the basis of financial statements. So why are you making it from it? Because it is the biggest source from wherever you can get the information. And the best information you can get is from financial statements. So from that only you all must be making your class 12 projects and must be finished by now. Correct? है? सही बात है ये या नहीं? Yeah. This is English only, beta. This is total English. I am using almost 80-90% English. Whatever I say in Hindi, I am going to say it in English also, right? So don't get so restricted that ma'am use English. Majorly, I am using English only. So you don't have to worry about and just relax and see this that I'm only 90% I'm using English, right? So wherever I'm just saying some statement in Hindi, I'm going to say it in English also that. So don't worry if I said something in Hindi. Okay. Hi Sachin, how are you? So financial statements of company, they show the financial position of company at specific point of time. These statements are result of recorded facts, convictions, accounting concepts, and personal judgments. So financial statements जो होते हैं company के, they show of course the financial position at specific point of a time. These statements are result of recorded facts, conventions. Of course, financial statements are the end results, right? End points. That whatever you have done in the whole year, we are going to come to a end point. That is financial statement. Yeah. Okay, ji. So after preparing trial balance, summarized statements are prepared. That are financial statements. So in financial statement, we are going to prepare a balance sheet, statement of P&L, notes to account, and cash flow statement. So financial statement of company covers all these things: balance sheet, statement of P&L, notes to accounts, cash flow statement. This you all can get an MCQ also, that what is covered under financial statements of companies. So all these things, all these four things are covered. Good evening, Navjot. Your accounts test is on 23rd December. 3 chapters aata hai. I have solved now for MCQs and more questions. Okay. So which chapters are coming, na? Which chapters are coming? Tell me in that, Navjot. Yeah, cash flow statement, of course, one shot of cash flow statement also we'll be doing soon. So financial statements of company, right? Company is going to make all these things in their financial statements: balance sheet, statement of P&L, notes to accounts, cash flow statement, right? So, yeah, format of balance sheet is the most important thing which we have to cover in this. What is balance sheet? A statement which is going to tell you the financial position. Financial position covers what? Assets, liabilities, and shareholders' money, right? Assets, liabilities, and capital, which will be called as shareholders' money or equity in class 12, right? Okay, ji. Earlier in your class 11th, you used to call it assets, liability, capital. But in a company, you are going to call assets, liability, and equity. Right? Equity means owner's money. What is the format of balance sheet? Today, I'm going to tell you that what questions you are going to get and how to learn this balance sheet. Right? How to learn this balance sheet. अरे बंसल जी, अब 12th की पढ़ाई भी आज ही कर लेगा बेटा. वैसे क्लास में तो तू कह रहा था मैम बस कर दो, बस कर दो. So balance sheet, of course, is divided into two parts: equity and liability, and other part is asset side, right? Equity and liability, and other part is asset side. You all might remember that the balance sheet which you used to prepare in class 11th looked like this, right? But now nothing has changed. You just have started making it in this manner, right? You have just started making in this manner that, yeah, pehle we used to compare liability and assets like this. Now we are just doing the things. Huh, this way, that we are mentioning the liabilities first and then assets in the end, but the total of assets and liabilities should match in the end. That is going to remain same, right? So equity and liability, right? Equity and liability, let's understand first that what comes under equity and liability, right? So equity and liability covers four things: SSNC. I'm going to teach you some short forms, right? I'm going to teach you some short forms and you will be able to get the whole balance sheet from that. That equity and liability is going to get four things in it. SSNC. You can create a easy full form for this, है ना? इसको ऐसे याद कर सकते हो कि सुबह सुबह नहाना चाहिए, right? So SSNC. So equity and liability covers four things: shareholders fund, share application money pending allotment, non-current liability, current liability. Right? This format, why ma'am there is a need to learn this format? Because question is going to ask you that reserve and surplus lie under which head? Which head, which subhead? So that type of questions you get from this chapter: major head, main head, subhead. Major head, main head, subhead. That questions you are going to get. So you should know what lies under what. So you should know the format of balance sheet. है ना? वही बात है ना सचिन, तो इसीलिए तो कह रहे कि तभी तो ज्ञान नहीं कि ये भैया ज्ञान आना चाहिए. So SSNC, equity and liability covers SSNC, right? So SSNC means shareholders fund, shareholders fund, right? Share application money pending allotment. What is the meaning of these words that I am going to tell you? Share application money pending allotment, non-current liability, current liability. Okay, okay. Then shareholder fund covers three things. SRM, right? Shareholder fund covers three things. SRM. अगर आप सुबह सुबह नहीं नहाते हो, तो then you should get some sharam. SRM. So other short form under shareholder fund is SRM. First is SSNC, then SRM. SRM means what? Share capital, reserve and surplus, right? Money received against sure warrant. Money received against sure warrant. Then you have NCL. Then you have NCL. NCL, what comes under NCL? LADOL. Make a short form for this. LADOL. LDOL. And what comes under current liability? STOS. What comes under current liability? STOS. Right? So, LADOL means what? Long-term borrowing. Right? And D means deferred tax liability. Other long-term borrowing, GLADOL, and L means long-term provision. STOS means stocks, short-term borrowing, short-term provision, and trade payable, other long-term, other short-term liability. So what is the way to learn this balance sheet? Again, I am telling you that what is the way to learn equity and liability? Equity and liability, firstly, it is divided into four parts. What are they? SSNC. SSNC means what? Subah subah nahana chahiye. Sorry, sorry. No class. Or you can make your other full form, which is easy for you. Right? So SSNC says what? Shareholders fund. Right? Sure application money pending allotment. Sure application money pending allotment. N means non-current liability. C means current liability. Correct? Done this much. Then shareholder fund has got in it SRM, right? SRM. NCL has got in it LDOL, doll, or you can learn it by doll, right? CL has got in it STOS. CL has got in it STOS. Now let's understand what are the meanings of these words, right? What are the meanings of these words? So, firstly, equity and liability is divided into four parts: shareholder fund, share application money pending allotment, NCL, CL. So, of course, this is your capital part. Capital means owner's money, right? Which we are going to call by equity. In your company, whatever is shareholders' money or whatever are the owner's money, they are called equity, no? You all must have heard this in Shark Tank also if you have seen any of the episodes of that. So, shareholders' fund, right? Shareholders' fund is divided into four parts: SRM, share capital. Of course, share capital means the capital of the owners, right? Capital of the owners. It has two types: equity share capital and preference capital. Then reserves and surplus. Whatever reserves you have. Reserves are created out of profits, right? And profits also belongs to owners. So reserves and surplus, they lie under shareholder fund. Money received against share warrants. What is the meaning of this? Right? If there is any money received against share warrant, that means you have got the money, but share warrants you haven't issued yet. Share warrants means the share certificates. So that you have to give a B. Still, you are counting it as your equity. Next, share application money pending allotment. That means, beta, you all have that shares entry. You all must have seen that first we get the money of application, then we allot the shares. Right? So, this is the situation where you have got the application, but you haven't allotted the shares yet. But it is still the part of your capital, right? It is still your liability because you have to tell them that if the shares are allotted or not. So, sure, application money pending allotment means application money you have received, but allotment is yet to be done. Next is all the non-current liabilities. Non-current liabilities, you all know, long-term liabilities, right? The liabilities which you can pay in long term for a period more than 1 year or after 1 year you can pay, right? So, long-term borrowings, first is long-term borrowing. Long-term borrowing means debentures, loans, right? कोई भी अगर उधार हमने लंबे समय तक के लिए लिया है, right? So that are long-term borrowings. Deferred tax liability explanation is not in your syllabus, but still I'll tell you once we will move to the theoretical understanding of this. Other long-term liabilities. If there are any long-term liabilities which are not covered in other headings, they will come under other LTB, other LTL. Long-term provisions. If we have created any provisions for long time. Long time means any provision which we have created for a period more than 12 months. That is long-term provision that comes here. Current liability. Current liability includes short-term borrowing, है ना? All the borrowings which we have taken for short time, like bank overdraft, right? Trade payable. Trade payable means creditors plus bills payable. Other liabilities means if there is anything which is not covered under these heads, that will come under other current liability. Short term provision. Short term provision means if we have made provision, if we are making any provisions for less than 12 months, है ना, the provisions which will get used in a particular year only, so that are short term provisions. So this is what is the liability side of balance sheet. Were you able to get it or not? Were you able to learn it or not? Let's check once. Let's check once that what have we understood in the equity and liability side of balance sheet. That whole equity and liability side is divided into four parts. That whole equity and liability side is divided into four parts. S, S, N, C. That is sure. That is yeah. That is sure holders fund, right? Shareholders fund, share application, money, pending allotment, pending allotment, non-current liability, current liability. Then shareholders fund, they are further divided into four parts. They are divided into three parts, sorry, SRM. SRM. S means share capital, R means reserve and surplus, M means money received against share warrant. Money received against share warrant, right? And if you talk about non-current liabilities, they are divided into four things: LDOL, DOL, long-term borrowing, long-term provision, other long-term liabilities, and deferred tax liability. Current liabilities are divided into four parts: TOS, right? Short-term borrowing, same thing, right? Same thing you did in the non-current, right? Now borrowings are going to be short-term, है ना? Current है तो short-term के लिए हो गई. Trade payable and other short-term liabilities. Other short-term liabilities, or you can say other short-term liabilities. Yeah, other short-term liabilities. Yes. So this is how equity and liability side is divided and in whole, right? So yeah, this much only. Now, what questions you are going to get? How are you going to get questions in this chapter? You will get a question that security premium reserve, right? Security premium reserve lies under which head? These types of questions you will get. That this reserve lies under which head? So you'll have to tell that it lies under reserves and surplus, which comes under share capital. Or you'll have to mention that, yeah, it lies under reserves and surplus share capital, which comes under shareholder fund. So these kinds of questions you are going to get. Sometimes you will get 9% debentures. 9% debentures lies under which head? So you'll have to tell that 9% debentures lies under long-term borrowing, which comes under NCL. Subhead is long-term borrowing, main head is NCL. है ना? These are some easy ones only. More than this you are going to get in your exams. So subheads and heads, right? Subheads and heads you are going to get from this chapter. Subheads and heads. Next, other side. Let's come to the asset side of balance sheet. Asset side is much easier. Asset side, whole asset side is divided into two parts. Asset side is divided into two parts: current assets, non-current assets, right? Current assets and non-current assets. If you talk about current assets, it can be further divided into, you can take the short form fund loop, है ना? Fund loop. And non-current assets are divided in SITSCO. SITSCO, right? SITSCO. So F means fixed asset, right? F means fixed asset. N means your non-current investments. Non-current investments. D means deferred tax asset, right? Current assets, these are na. These are non-current assets for fund law and current assets for SITSCO. Yeah. So fixed asset, D for deferred tax. Yes. Loans and advances. Loans and advances. Other current assets. Yeah, other current assets. And SITSCO covers current investments, inventories, trade receivable, any short-term loans and advances, right? And current cash and cash equivalent, and other non-current assets. So simply these asset side to you all already know that non-current assets means assets which are going to be with you for more than 12 months. Long-term assets, right? The assets which will benefit you for more than 12 months. What comes under that? Fixed assets. Yeah. Assets which are going to stay with you for a period more than 12 months. So fixed assets covers tangible assets. Tangible assets means assets which can be touched and seen, right? Intangible assets means assets which cannot be touched nor seen. Capital work in progress. If your tangible asset is under progress, that is capital work in progress. If any intangible asset is under process, that is intangible asset under development. Non-current investments are also long-term assets. Deferred tax asset will understand. If you have given loan to anybody, है ना? If you have given loan to anybody, loan taken is liability, loan given is asset. Because you have given the loan, you are going to get the money back. Other non-current assets, है ना? Other non-current assets, if you have any other assets apart from this, है ना? Which are not covered under any other head, so that you can cover under this head, right? Current assets covers Cisco, that if you have any short-term investment, है ना? That the assets which are going to benefit you for period less than 12 months. So current investment, inventories, है ना? Your inventory is your stock, whatever is the raw material, finished goods, all is going to come under raw material. Trade receivable. Trade receivable means debtors plus bills receivable. Cash and cash equivalent means items which are equal to cash. If you have done cash flow statement, you might know this. That cash and cash equivalent means that cash as well as all the things which are counted equal to cash, like bank, draft, check, right? Short-term investments. So any investment or anything which can be counted equal to cash, that comes under cash and cash equivalent. Short-term loans and advances. If you have given loan and advance to anybody for short-term, that comes under this. Other current assets, if you have got assets for current period, and if there is anything which could not be covered under these heads, that comes under other current assets. Now we have understood the whole balance sheet, right? So now let's understand each and every head particular by particular, so you can get what can come under which head, right? So let's talk about equity and liability. So equity and liability is firstly going to be distributed among shareholders fund, right? Shareholders fund is divided in share capital. First word is SRM, right? SRM ka first word is share capital. Share capital means what? The capital is the part of, share capital is the total money, right? Share capital is the total money which the company is going to own, right? Share capital is the total money, or there are some different types of capitals also which come under share capital, but share capital means the part of company that company got from issue of shares. So share capital means the money or the capital which company has arranged by issuing shares. Yeah. So company has issued shares to get the money from public, right? So the money which company has got by issuing shares to public, that is share capital. Yeah, if you all have done shares, you all might be knowing that share capital is divided into some further capitals also, right? There is one capital, authorized capital, issued capital, subscribed capital. So if you get any of these capital and if they ask you for the head of this, the head is share capital and main head is shareholder fund. So all kinds of capitals, they lie under share capital. Okay, whether it be authorized, issued, subscribed. Okay, ji. Next, reserves in surplus. Most important one. Most important one. Majorly seen in the examinations. They are going to give you any kind of reserve and then they are going to ask you the head of that. So the head of all the reserves is reserves in surplus, right? So reserves in surplus covers all kinds of heads, whether all kinds of reserves, whether it be capital reserve, capital redemption reserve, SPR, DRR, revaluation reserve, sure option outstanding amount, other reserves, and surplus. Most important thing, where is statement of where is profit, and where is statement of profit posted. So profit is also posted under reserves and surplus, right? Surplus means what? Profit only, na? So if you get any profit, that is also mentioned under reserves and surplus. This you have to keep in mind, that sometimes you can get the question that where is profit posted in balance sheet? Under which head profit lies? Profit lies in reserves and surplus. Main head is what? Share capital. Right? Main head is what? Shareholders fund, sorry. Shareholders fund. Next, what we understood was reserve non-current liabilities, right? Non-current liabilities, money pending against sure allotment that I have told you. Sure application money means that application money we have received and we haven't allotted shares yet. So that is sure application money pending allotment. Yeah, got it? Okay. So next, non-current liabilities. Non-current liabilities means the liabilities which are going to be with you for long term, right? The liabilities which you can pay after 12 months. So first is LT. Yeah, we understood it. LADOL, right? LADOL. First one is long-term borrowing. Long-term borrowings means the borrowings which you have made for long time, which you are going to return after 12 months at least. है ना है ना 1 साल 2 साल में रिटर्न करोगे तो लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग्स मींस डिबेंचर्स बॉन्ड्स टर्म लोन्स पब्लिक डिपॉजिट्स other loans and advances. So if you get this ki ha public deposit lies under which head, so you have to mention the answer that it lies under long term borrowing non current liabilities. So all these things are covered under long-term borrowings. है ना? Deferred tax liability means income tax on difference between accounting income and taxable income is deferred tax. So beta ji, there are two types of taxes which you calculate in your accounting. One is the tax which you save for, and one is the tax which you get in the end, right? So sometimes the tax which we have paid is more, है ना, or sometimes the tax which we have saved is more. So what happens if you have saved more and the tax turns out to be if you have saved less and tax turns out to be more, है ना, कि हमने बचाया कम था बाद में टैक्स ज्यादा आ गया तो अब आपको और टैक्स देना पड़ेगा, है ना, एडवांस टैक्स अगर हमने पे भी कर दिया बाद में जब प्रॉफिट मिला तो टैक्स ज्यादा आ गया. तो इफ द profit is lesser, if the tax is more and you have paid lesser, so you'll have to pay more of tax. So that's why it is turned into deferred tax liability. Yes. Okay. Next is other long-term liability. If you have any other liabilities which are not mentioned in any particular head, which don't go in any long-term head, so this is the head other long-term liability. For example, you can sometimes find that there are trade payables for more than 12 months. So that will come under other long-term liability. Long-term provisions. If you have created any provisions for more than 12 months, right? Or any provisions जिनका liability will come after 12 months, right? You are saving for a long period, है ना? So that come under long term provision. If we talk about current liabilities covers TOS, short term borrowing, right? What comes under short term borrowing? If there is any loan payable on demand. Demand means whenever you're going to ask, whenever the person is going to ask for money, you have to pay it, right? So that is short term borrowing. So short term borrowing covers demand, loan on demand, right? Bank overdraft. So if you get that bank overdraft lies under which head? You have to mention short term borrowing current liability, right? Deposits, other loans and advances. Trade payable means sundry creditors and bills payable. Other current liability means, this is the important one, that current maturities of long term debts. This has been seen many times, right? That current maturities of long term debts. Current maturities of long term debts means there is a part of debenture which is getting matured this year. So that becomes current maturity, na? That becomes current liability for now. So that is why we mention it under current maturity of long term debts. Unpaid dividends. Unpaid dividends means the liabilities which are to be paid super soon. So super soon is going to come under current liability. Outstanding expenses, you all know that these are current liabilities. So they didn't got under short term borrowing, they didn't got space under trade payable. So they are going to get space under current liabilities, right? So similarly, you have unearned income, right? So they come under current liabilities. The liabilities which are to be finished in particular year only or in short time, right? Short-term provision. Short-term provision covers the provisions which are made for short period. For short period means for period less than 12 months. है ना? The provisions which will get used in 12 months. For example, provision for employee benefits you have to give super soon, right? A provision for expenses, regular expenses, provision for taxes to be paid every year. So these provisions which are made for short period, they are current liabilities and they come under short-term provisions. So if somebody asks you that where are you going to post provision for tax, which under which head? So you'll have to mention short-term provision, current liability. Okay, ji. Now let's talk about asset side. Asset side was first thing was assets, fixed assets. Fixed assets means assets which are going to be there for more than 12 months. And non-current investments covers trade investments and investments in property, equity, preference shares, mutual funds. So if you have invested in anything for long period, that is going to come under non-current, right? Non-current means non-fluctuating, which is going to be fixed for long time. This is again very important, that long-term loans and advances. These words have been seen many times. These words have been seen many times, that capital advances comes under which head? Security deposits come under which head? Loans and advances come under which head? Capital advances means if you have given somebody the advance and that person is going to give you the money back. Security deposit means that sometimes when you major example of this we can take that when you get admission into a college, or when you go in a rented place, right? Initially they ask you for some security deposit, initially they are going to ask you for security deposit, and they say that if you stay here for this much time, we are going to return you your money, right? So that is kind of a loan you have given, or advance you are given which you are going to get back later, right? If you're going to get it back later, that means it is your asset, it is your benefit which you are going to get back, right? So this is also asked many times, that security deposits, they come under which head, subhead? So it comes under long term loans and advances, which is under non current assets. These two things you will have to mention very clearly, right? Other loans and advances. If there is any current asset, non current asset which could not be covered under these heads, that will go under non current asset, right? Next is current assets. If we have investments for short period, that is current investment. Inventories means all kinds of stock, right? Work in progress, whether it is finished, whether it is stock in trade, whether it is stores and spares, anything of goods, राइट चाहे वो रेडी हो चाहे वो अभी रॉ मटेरियल में ही हो चाहे वो रास्ते में हो रेडी होने की एवरीथिंग कम्स अंडर इन्वेंटरीज ट्रेड रिसीवेबल कवर्स सन्ड्री डेटर्स एंड बिल्स रिसीवेबल cash and cash equivalent means things which are considered equal to cash like bank check draft, right? Short-term loans and advances. If we have given any loan to somebody for short period, that means we are going to get it back in 12 months. So that comes under short-term loans and advances. Anything which could not be covered under these heads will be covered under other current assets. For example, unamortized expenses, prepaid expenses, right? These things they come under other current assets, right? So these kinds of questions, yeah. Other part of this chapter is statement of P&L. First thing which we did was the format of balance sheet. Now other part of this chapter is statement of P&L, right? What is statement of P&L? Similarly, beta, as similar to the topic which you did in your class 11 P&L, that is now considered as statement of P&L in company, right? So there is a proper format which is given under Companies Act that is only followed. That what is that format? Let's talk about that. Of course, beta, one thing you all already know, that how we calculate profit. What is the way to calculate profit? The old school method only, which you all have been learning from sixth, seventh mathematics, that income minus expense, right? Income minus expense is profit. Just we are going to write it in accounting manner, right? We are going to frame it in accounting manner. That is a statement of P&L of company, right? So statement of P&L is going to tell you the financial performance. Financial performance means profit or loss. Okay. So format of statement of P&L is on your screens. That firstly you have to take the incomes, right? Then you have to deduct the expenses. Whatever you get as profit, deduct tax from it, and you will get the profit. Wow. Now let's see what is it. Revenue from operation is the main source of income. Beta. Revenue from operation means what? He income from operation. Income किससे हुई? Operation से. What is operation? Operation means selling the product. Revenue from operation means net sales, right? What is the main source of income of the business? अगर मेरा कोई बिजनेस है तो बेटा मेरा मेन उसमें इनकम का क्या सोर्स होता है कि जो भी मेरा प्रोडक्ट है मैं उसको बेचूं, right? That I sell it and I earn the money. So revenue from operation is the name of net sales. So firstly, you are going to add your income, right? You are going to take your main income, revenue from operation. Then you are going to add other income, right? Take the total of both the incomes, deduct all the expenses from it. What expenses? Cost of material consumed. Cost of material consumed means what cost I have spent on getting my goods ready, right? What materials I have spent or what materials have been consumed to get my product ready, right? Next is purchase of stock in trade. If I have purchased any stock which is ready to sell further, that also comes here. Change in inventory, right? If there is any change in inventory. Employee benefit expense, whatever I am doing for employees salary, bonuses, perks, all comes under employee benefit expense. Finance cost, most important. Finance cost means money spent for arranging finance, right? Money which I have spent for arranging finance, right? Expense for arranging finance. Expense for arranging finance. जैसे मुझे फाइनेंस अरेंज करने के लिए भी खर्चा करना पड़ता है बेटा. अच्छा, मान लो मेरे को लोन लेना है, तो लोन लेने के लिए भी तो पेपर्स रेडी करवाने पड़ते हैं. या लोन लेने के लिए इफ आई गॉट अ मीडिएटर, राइट, सो दैट मीडिएटर विल टेक द कमीशन, है ना. इफ आई टुक डिवेंचर्स, सो आई हैव टू पे इंटरेस्ट इन रिटर्न. सो ऑल द थिंग्स व्हिच आई एम डूइंग इन रिटर्न ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस, दैट इज फाइनेंस कॉस्ट, है ना. एनीथिंग व्हिच आई हैव स्पेंट इन अरेंजिंग फाइनेंस, दैट इज फाइनेंस कॉस्ट. Next is depreciation and amortization expense. If there are any dep and amortization expenses, if there are any other expenses apart from that, that we are going to deduct, right? So incomes minus expenses, you are going to get the profit. Then from profit, you are going to deduct the tax. Later, you are going to get profit after tax. This is the format of statement of P&L. Let's understand it bit by bit first. What is RFO? है ना. Revenue from operation is the principal revenue, biggest and the main revenue, main source of income of the business is sales, right? So first you are going to take the main income, right? Then you are going to take any other income. If apart from sales, by chance I got any income from sale of asset, or any dividend is received, any interest is received, so that I am going to add to sales. What expenses I am going to get? Cost of material consumed. How to find cost of material consumed? Opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. Purchase of stock in trade means if I have done any purchases to sell further, है ना. जैसे बेटा अगर बिजनेस कैसे है हमारा कि अगर हमने कोई प्रोडक्ट आगे बेचने के लिए खरीदा, so that is what purchase of stock in trade means. Change in inventory includes finished goods, work in progress, stock in trade. Employee benefit expense, if I am spending any money for employees, on employees, wages, salaries, bonus. Finance costs includes bank fees, commitment charges. Depreciation and amortization expense, if there is any expense on depreciation or any other expenses, right? That if any expense could not be covered under particular heads, any generic head में अगर नहीं आ पा रहा, so that will go under other expenses. So after deducting the expenses, I am going to get my profit. Yes or no? What are the objectives of financial statements, beta? Objectives of financial statements is why are we making financial statements? It is going to provide us financial data, of course. It is the place where we get to know the true and fair view of business. It assesses effectiveness. It shows the effectiveness that how much effective is this business. It provides reliable information to various parties, right? It gives you the reliable and it gives the people, those who are in need of information, the exact information they require. Disclose accounting policies followed, right? And who are the users of this financial statement? Shareholders, management, employees are internal users, inside users, insiders. Outsiders, banks and financial institutions, investors, creditors, government and authorities, SEBI, right? So yeah, what are the limitations of financial statements? These are the limitations that we have been using historical data since chapter 1, and since you started understanding accounting principles, you know that historical cost concept is what we use. So everything is going to be based on bit of history. Qualitative element is totally ignored in full accounts, so it is again ignored in financial statements also. Affected by estimates, somewhere or the other, beta, if we are using historical values, there will be some estimations also, right? So this is other disadvantage of whole accounting, not just of financial statements. Different accounting practices, that sometimes some companies might follow different accounting policies and practices, so that will be difficult to understand and to compare. Aggregate information, right? Price level changes are ignored. Again, cost concept comes in between, that of course we have been ignoring the price level changes from the very first day. These are disadvantages of whole accounting also, right? So this was all about your chapter financial statements. These kinds of questions you can get, है ना, that classify items under major head and subhead. Where is capital work in progress posted? So it goes under non-current assets and fixed assets. These are the answers which you will give, right? है ना, जैसे पूछ लिया प्रोविजन ऑफ वारंटीज कहाँ जाता है, तो ये लॉन्ग टर्म का प्रोविजन है, तो इट कम्स अंडर एनसीएल. जैसे पूछ लिया समटाइम्स क्वेश्चन इज दैट इनकम रिसीव्ड इन एडवांसेस पोस्टेड वेयर, so it is posted under current liabilities, other current liability. Capital advances, I told you, it comes under non current assets, long term loans and advances. And again you can get this type of question. This was in CBSE sample paper that gives the major heads and subheads of all these items. Debentures with maturity period and current financial year, so that is current liability, right? Lies under other current liability. SPR lies under shareholder fund reserves and surplus. Provident fund lies under long term provision, non current liability. So all these types of questions you can get. Yeah. Another one, intangible assets lie under which head, subhead? So intangible asset lie under fixed asset, main head, non-current asset, right? Intangible assets under development, same. Investments more than 12 months. So long term, non-current, under non-current investment. Deferred tax lies under which head? Non-current asset. Deferred tax asset is the subhead. Stores and spares, they lie under inventories. This is also seen many times better. Loose tools are also seen many times. They also lie under inventories, current assets. Right? So, yeah, these kinds of questions you all can get from this chapter. This was all about this chapter, balance sheet and P&L. Only these much things you need to know. And after this, practice all the heads, subheads, main heads and subheads questions, whichever you see in your books. That is enough to do this chapter. You're going to get one question from this chapter, and this is very scoring chapter. Directly, you can get those particular marks, right? So yeah, guys, I hope this session proves to be a beneficial session for you all. Soon we are going to start with the revision, with a discussion of previous year papers, right? So yeah, if you all are getting benefits from our videos, our sessions, do hit the like button and subscribe the channel, right? And thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining and thank you so much for listening. This was only we will be covering for today. This was a quick one-shot revision of financial statements, balance sheet, and P&L. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for cooperating. I will be seeing you all in the next class, which will be on Monday.